Well, good morning, Dan fam. Today, recording day is Friday, August 28th, last Friday of the month. And today on the Daily Beaver Morning Show, we are going to be talking about, again, the political exodus going on in British Columbia as a sixth MLA in about 2 weeks leaves the BC Conservative Party and an audio leak that can be very potentially damaging has come out. In addition, we will talk a little bit about the trade issue as Danielle Smith came out yesterday to tell us why it is she can't go all the way and help, a little bit like Scott Moe did. And meanwhile, Howard Lutnick seems to be performing in such a way as to avoid being made the patsy in all of this back south. And Jamieson Greer shows us that he has more than one face. Interested? Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a log, make yourself comfy, stay a while, because here we go.
Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors. The Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And The Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 6 and episode number, I'm going to guess 971 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian and always beaverific. Oh, look at that. My cup and my shirt match today. How cool is that? I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and Cubs, how is your mental health today? Mine, gotta say, doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. Had a little bit of a weird night in that we had supper a little later than usual last night. And let's see. Sometimes how after you eat, you get really sleepy. Well, I ate and I got really sleepy, especially since it was pretty much my bedtime by the time I got sleepy, which is a bad thing. I try not to eat fewer than 3 hours before I went to bed. But yesterday, just the way the day happened, that was not going to happen for me yesterday. I fell asleep immediately, pretty much after having consumed the last bite. Um, I just wanted to stretch out for a second, but I fell asleep, fully clothed, of course, and then woke up, of course, around 3:45 in the morning, and was up for a little bit, and then I got sleepy again around 5:30, and uh, lied down, and then got a couple of extra minutes, and either I slept through the alarm or it did not go off, because the next thing I knew, my beaver sweetie was lovingly just giving me a gentle little rub right there to wake me up. And then some kisses. And I said, "Yeah, it might be time to do your show." It's like, oh, gee. But feeling feeling good, feeling good today. My tennis match yesterday, competitive match, went well for me. I won it, unfortunately for my opponent, somewhere along the way. Um, I dropped a ball short, and as he ran for it, he sort of tweaked his foot a little bit. Not enough to stop playing, but enough that if you're um, doing the thing that you are supposed to do when somebody on the other side gets injured, which is take advantage of that, rather than uh, lowering your level of play to make it easier for them to stay in it. So um, I was not very nice. I kind of made him go run left and then run right and run left and then run right, and well, until, you know, he couldn't get there because he didn't have all his mobility. So I I I didn't feel good about it, though. That's the bad part. Is, it just goes so against my nature. It's like, there and this is really weird because politically, you know, I talk about, you know, they're wounded, you got your foot on their neck, press down, let's go, finish them off. Um, you know, and it's like that with sports too, right? If your opponent gives you advantage, like take it and finish it off. Um, but it's I'm not the finish them off kind of. I'm the make love, not war kind of guy, Beaver. So I want everybody to have a chance. But no, um, I found my killer instinct. I found my killer instinct, and I finished him off. And so, yeah, if everything stays the way it is, if some people don't sneak up over the course of the weekend and play some additional matches, so far I'm in second place on my ladder, and that is good enough to move up one rung at the end of the month if I remain in first or second. So fingers crossed, because it might be the first time since I've been on the competitive ladder that I go up. I'm so excited. It might happen. It might happen. But yes, I had a wonderful match. Somebody I play against a few times a year, so you know, we usually have some good close matches, and it was close. I mean, you know, it was a 6-4 win for me, so you know, it was pretty close. And I was behind for a little bit. I was down a break at one point at 3-2, so I had to claw back, but I did, and I had the victory. And I think on the competitive ladder, that's the three victories in a row for me, which I think is my longest streak. So, Canadians who make us proud. This one today. I'm proud of myself. All right. Uh, let's get into things today here. We have some stuff from Kit Uncover going through the feed. Most of it, so far, from what I can see, is a little more international here, but the Ottawa City Council voted unanimously on Wednesday to take the first step towards renaming Trump Avenue. It seems that from some of the things I've been listening to as well, if people are wondering, like, why does Donald Trump seem to have something against Canada somehow? It would seem that it is well known in political circles in the United States that Donald Trump um, is somewhat miffed because pretty much the near totality of any business venture he's tried in Canada, for some reason, has failed. It just maybe turns out that we're just a people with a discerning taste, high standards, and good judgment, perhaps. Donald, I know you think your stuff is very classy, but it just wasn't good enough for us. We expected more. Oh my God. BC admits to a $1.5 billion budget error following BIV investigation. Have no idea what that is about, uh, but I will take a look into that when I have an opportunity here. According to Business in Vancouver's Stéphane Labbé, the BC government has acknowledged it made a nearly 1.5 billion error in its latest budget, a mistake that will slash the projected natural gas royalties it receives from industry over the next 5 years. The admission came hours after Business in Vancouver published an investigation in which experts calculated the province had overstated expected natural gas royalty revenues by roughly $500 million per year. In an email Wednesday, the Office of the Premier said the Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions undertook a review that identified an administrative error related to its natural gas price forecast. The statement said the error would drop forecasted gas royalties by an average of $292 million per year over 5 years, more than 40% short of the estimate reported by Business in Vancouver on the extreme low end of what independent experts have calculated. The mistake, added the Premier's office, would be corrected in a September financial update. Wow. It says that BC moved to overhaul its gas royalty framework 5 years ago after an independent review found the previous framework had likely hemorrhaged billions of dollars to industry. The new system, slated to roll on January 1st, 2027, is ostensibly designed to reel in the public's share of fossil fuel profits extracted from Crown land. Its effectiveness is especially consequential because royalties account for the overwhelming majority of the revenue BC captures from the oil and gas sector. So, if I'm reading this correctly, the original framework was miswritten, and then they created a new system, and now they calculated how much will come in, and they were wrong by about 292 million per year. What's the problem in BC with coming up with a system that actually generates numbers you can rely on and actually has the money come in? Just saying. Oh boy. Okay. Uh, the government has yet to release details of the new system, including whether it would meet its previously stated target of capturing 50% of net industry profits. Premier's office appears to contradict Energy Minister, pushes back against source of budget error. Under the current transitional system, the BC government calculates monthly gas royalties using the plant inlet price, the market price of gas minus the cost of getting it to processing plants. Nancy Oleweiler, an economist at Simon Fraser University who verified the error, previously told Business in Vancouver that the province failed to subtract those transportation and processing costs in its latest budget forecasts, leading to a $5 million per year overestimation of its share of industry profits. At that rate, the 5 year sum of lost revenue could rival all the money spent fighting wildfires between 2021 and 2024. Behind closed doors, one senior BC official praised the new royalty system, stating that based on numbers in its budget 2026, it would generate a vast pool of new revenue. On June 29th, Energy Minister Adrian Dix told Treaty 8 First Nations that compared to a previous plan, the new royalty framework would allow the province to reap a $2.4 billion windfall over 5 fiscal years. Dix said those financial gains were based on numbers from budget 2026, according to a recording of the meeting obtained by Business in Vancouver. The Premier's office disputed Oldwire's analysis while appearing to contradict Dix's justification that the $2.4 billion in projected gains under the new royalty system are based on numbers in budget 2026. Instead of attributing the error on to failure to deduct transportation and processing costs, as reported by Business in Vancouver, the province said, quote, the administrative error was connected to, quote, unit and currency conversions. It is incorrect to claim that this was due to a lack of accounting of transportation and safety cost, stated the Premier's office. In implementing the new system, government analyses a range of price environments and scenarios rather than relying solely on one price to forecast to make decisions. The Ministries of Finance and Energy have yet to respond to a series of detailed questions surrounding the error and its long-term impacts. So there you go. The article does go on to detail a little more, a few things here, but the error has been identified and will be corrected which is the thing that matters. But yes, it might be interesting to find out how such an error could have been made in the first place. Alberta separatists say Canada-U.S. trade war bolsters call for independence. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you're an Alberta separatist, everything that happens, the sun rising today, is something that you would claim bolsters calls for independence. Uh, you're not our first separatist rodeo here. We kind of know how that game works. CRTC to implement CanCon rules for streamers opposed by the United States. Kind of interesting. Let's not sure. See if the Prime Minister objects this time or interferes this time, like they did when they recommended some money for the financing portion here. Let's see, what else do we have here? Apparently, there was an anti-immigrant speaker that wanted to come to Canada for a Hamilton event, and it appears that they have been blocked. Good. Oh, here's one that brought me a little joy yesterday. It would appear that the Tate brothers, or the Taint brothers, whichever one it is, uh, are a little upset because they do not like the U.S. jail conditions that they are in as they await their extradition hearings. According to the BBC's Kayla Epstein. Andrew and Tristan Tate have told a Florida court they should be released from jail so they can fight extradition to the UK on charges of rape and trafficking. Wearing tan jail uniforms, the brothers maintained they did not commit the alleged crimes as they hid out at conditions in the US custody. Government lawyers argued that the two were a flight risk and had bragged about having multiple passports, while defense attorneys said the two social media influencers' high profile would make it almost impossible for them to flee. Yeah, right. It also means that they would have a lot of people that would help them flee. So, yeah, I don't think so. U.S. Magistrate Judge Lauren Lewis will issue a written ruling at a later date on whether to grant bail to the dual British U.S. citizens. The two were arrested in Miami on the 19th of July. During Thursday's hearing, defense lawyers said the pair had complied with the terms of the release while they battled the UK charges in another case in Romania. U.S. authorities took the men into custody last month after the UK's Crown Prosecution Service unveiled dozens of new charges against them. The British authorities have until the 16th of September to submit a full extradition request. The brothers, who arrived in court in shackles, were questioned in turn by their defense attorneys and government lawyers as they took the stand. Andrew Tate, 39, declared he has, quote, never committed the crimes I'm accused of. Tristan Tate, 38, described his detention conditions as small and hot with little sunlight and exercise. Quote, it's beginning to grate on me because I can't partake in helping with my defense, he told the court, according to CBS News, the BBC's U.S. partner. It's death by scurvy, he said, adding that he had lost 14 pounds. The British Embassy filed court documents asking the judge to keep the Tates in custody as the UK pursues extradition. U.S. government lawyers pushed back against the brothers' claim that they had exaggerated their wealth to massage their online personas. The federal attorneys said the Tates had access to resources that could help fund an escape, and they had bragged about having multiple passports. But Andrew Tate, a former professional kickboxer, testified that to support himself financially, he, quote, had to go back to boxing ring against heavier, younger opponents, according to CBS News. Quote, I've said some stupid things, but sometimes you have to shake the internet to get noticed, he testified about his online statements, according to CBS. This is the reality of the internet. I'm being treated like El Chapo, he added, referring to the Mexican drug kingpin, but I have a perfect record in the court system. Under questioning from his attorney, Joseph McBride, Andrew Tate denied he was a human trafficker. Yeah, but see, that's the problem with, if you're not assuming, that's the problem with developing an entire reputation for yourself and persona for yourself as being one. Sometimes people tend to believe you. There are no shortcuts to fame. She described a 5-year romantic relationship. Hold on. Whoops. The defense also called Natasha Cisse from England to testify in support of releasing Andrew Tate. She described a 5-year romantic relationship, saying she had one child with him and was expecting a second. It's nice having him at home, she told the court, reports CBS. Cisse also said that despite his online persona, Andrew Tate, quote, has never been violent toward women, according to CBS. The UK has brought a total of 59 criminal charges against the Tates, including rape and counts relating to sex trafficking and indecent images of a child. These guys really don't want to go to jail, given that they seem to be confessing left, right, and center that we were frauds. The whole thing we were doing, we were frauds. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's see if the evidence bears that out. The British authorities filed 21 charges last year against the brothers, then 38 additional counts last month. The combined charges involve 7 accusers, UK prosecutors said. The brothers also faced sex trafficking charges in Romania in 2022 and were under a travel ban until they were allowed to come to the United States in 2025. Quote, "If I go to England, they will lock me up," Tristan Tate said on the stand in Miami on Thursday, "and take everything I've ever worked for." Yeah, and? He also said the Romanian charges had, quote, "destroyed my entire life," reports CBS. Yeah, and? It's not the Romanian charges that destroyed your life, it's what you did, the choices you made that led to there being charges that destroyed your entire life. You need to go back in time. The thing that screwed you up, the decision point was way earlier than the one you're identifying. The Tates built an influencer empire in the so-called manosphere, showcasing a lifestyle of conspicuous wealth and excess. Andrew Tate accumulated millions of followers among an audience of primarily young men. The White House has said President Donald Trump will not intervene in the extradition case of the brothers, who have been vocal supporters of him. Gee, wonder why. But yeah, I'm like reading this, and they claim that now that all of that we were just frauds. But assuming that that's just something that they are conveniently saying now, because they think that they're too pretty, too young, too rich for jail. You can't send me to jail. Do you know who I am? And I'm just like at home. Oh, if they actually did do what they're accused of. Oh, looky, 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 looky here. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Look at who suddenly has a problem with being involuntarily detained. Revelations. Jeez. Maybe you should have thought of that before you allegedly did it to others. It turns out you don't like it very much. Funny that. Oh, man. Tell you, if that was indeed, if they literally built all that up and they were scams just to make themselves big and feel important that way, wow. Um, again, right? Uh, there's a eventually. I hope Donald Trump seems to be the counterpoint, but eventually, usually, there is a price to running your damn mouth. There is a price to manufacturing a fake version of yourself. Just saying. Quebec's governing party names Trump its real adversary as election begins. Well, there you go. Canadian Council, again about that Trump Street, considers changing street named after Trump to Taco Avenue. Banman is the sixth BC Conservative to quit this month, calls Leader Findlay unelectable. We'll have more on that a little later today. More Yukoners tuning to food banks as demand continues to rise. Yes, that's not good. As Mr. Grizzly says, the existence of food banks is an admission that government has failed. This is one that makes me happy. Makes me happy indeed. Canada is having some success at recruiting foreign scientists and researchers, particularly from the US, according to the Canadian press. I had, if you remember, many shows ago, I had wondered if the federal government was going to put money specifically in trying to take advantage of the brain drain from the United States and bring these people here. And it turns out that there was some money set aside for that purpose. And well, it seems that it's working out. It says here, Canadian universities have recruited dozens of foreign scientists and researchers, many of them poached from prestigious U.S. institutions in the first intake of a program to attract world-leading academics. The hiring of the 64 new recruits is being funded over 8 years by $504 million from the federal government. All four of the highest paid Eddie Goldenberg Distinguished Research Chairs, as well as dozens of others, were previously at U.S. institutions, including Harvard and MIT. The researchers are being hired by universities across the country, including the University of British Columbia, McGill, and the University of Toronto. Industry Minister Mélanie Joly, who helped announce the recruits at UBC in Vancouver on Thursday, says Canada is doubling down on science at a time when others were turning away from it. More than $37 million in other funding will support recruitment of 63 emerging leaders over the next year. Quote, attracting top talent will deliver breakthroughs that improve Canadians' lives and advance Canada's positions as a global leader in science and innovation, Joly says in a statement, because as we often say on the show, the future is not only about AI, it is about also IP. And the more brilliant minds we have here, and the more sanctions and patents that we have here in Canada, that we maximize and develop here to add some value added, is a good thing. Another thing, I've been listening to Energy Media, and he is stating here this move that we are making with Mark Carney to exploit our resources more. The one thing that we better make sure that we do as we are doing this is that we do a little more upgrading here before just sending things elsewhere, because then all we will be doing is creating the same situation we created with the United States, but with the world, right? Just giving them our raw elements and then buying them back from them. And if you have a relationship that's too dependent with any one nation, as we've just seen, and as we're experiencing now, it will cause some damage. So it might be a good idea to do some, not just ship out the wood and buy it back as furniture, but maybe do, you can upgrade the wood, a couple of levels up, or actually just have, build the furniture here. Right? We need to do more than just pull it out of the ground, chop it down, and ship it off somewhere, right? And if we're making this pivot, we should pivot away not only from being that, right, to the United States, but we shouldn't exchange that for just being that for the entire world. Right? We should do a little more. And it seems that from the analysis of the concessions that the United States was demanding from us, it seems that there was a very concerted strategy to come for everything in Canada that is specifically advanced manufacturing, so that we would be relegated to the position of just the supplier of raw materials, untransformed raw materials, and pretty much nothing else, maybe a couple of services. The research chairs are named after Eddie Goldenberg, a policy advisor and chief of staff to former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. I believe, yes, we talked about him not 2 months ago because he had passed away. And says the government says the research chairs were renamed to honor his, quote, decades of leadership that helped strengthen the Canadian research and innovation landscape. So there you go. We are attracting people. And also in BC, Todd Maffin we've had this whole thing on to attract healthcare professionals to British Columbia. And that has had a very good impact there. I believe I can't see anything more recent than April, but it's still going on here. But around he what do you put it? Just see if there's any data here within. It says here that by sometime in April, something called a project called the Nanaimo Infusion is what it was called here. And he said here, it started last year as a kind of impromptu tourism event where we invited folks to come over to Vancouver Island to eat in our restaurants, shop in our stores, stay in our campgrounds kind of thing, Maffin said. Thousands responded and hundreds ended up showing up to the event, which took place at a local park. As they chatted with the attendees, they became aware of something interesting. Quote, my wife and I, when we were talking to people there, noticed that a lot of them were American healthcare workers who used that event as an opportunity to check BC out, and Vancouver Island in particular, as maybe an escape route for them. We talked to way more healthcare workers than I think we realized were coming. When we noticed that there were a lot of healthcare workers, we sort of retooled the website to be an additional resource in helping recruit people to BC. The event's website now contains an entire section that helps break down all the steps necessary for doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and other healthcare workers to move to Canada and work in their fields. Quote, last year after the event, we sort of turned it into a healthcare recruitment project, and that's now become a national movement. There are more than 35 communities across this country that have templated what we've done on Vancouver Island and are using it to recruit healthcare workers into their own communities. And so we're especially proud of that work. He says he's not sure how many will attend this year's event, but feels it will be bigger than the one in 2025. And again, this was back from April there. But yes, I don't have anything here stating how many, but I do believe, um, uh, based, if I remember correctly, that based on his videos, and you can correct me here in the chat, Kits and Cubs, if I am wrong, but he has recruited. Uh, or the initiative has brought, I think, close to about 150 various healthcare professional workers to British Columbia, if not more. But if any of you have more details on that, because I know a lot of you are fans of Todd and may have more updated information. It says that BC Conservatives MLA makes move to repeal DRIPA. That's the law about Indigenous rights. So yeah, that's again. I do not know where these people think that there's a mandate earning strategy in wanting to treat Indigenous people poorly. There's a niche market for that will give you a lot of money in their adulation because they're having you validate their hate, and therefore they don't feel like outcasts. But overall, general public, this is not the type of policy that makes people say, "Wow, that I need to get myself a slice of that." These are people I want making decisions in my best interest for the future. Look how they treat them. Oh yeah, maybe yeah. Let me reconsider that. This is dumb. News: 50% U.S. tariff effectively shuts down Newfoundland and Labrador bottled spirits from down south, says one producer. That's the goal. Chapman's, Canadians who make us proud. Ice cream pledges no price increase as Ontario company shifts away from U.S. suppliers. So they are shifting from U.S. suppliers that are going to get, certain nuts and fruits and whatnot from suppliers in the Mediterranean and in Europe and that kind of stuff. And it seems that they have found a way to get them at either competitive prices or, if they are slightly higher, nut prices that they will pass down to consumers, because the good people at Chapman's believe that even in times like these, people should still be able to afford at least ice cream. And when it's good stuff like Chapman's ice cream, we concur. Thank you. Wish we could get someone from Chapman's on the show. That would be great. Would love to talk to them about their business policy and their social responsibility and that policy and all that kind of stuff. Canadian worshipped across the Arctic on historic sovereignty voyage with Coast Guard helicopter. Okay, good stuff here. And thank you, Kit Uncover, for the morning brief. Thank you so much. All right. Kit Dan here with a little message for the kits and cubs that I'm happy to pass along. Next weekend is when everything turns. Well, I'm going to say it because he said it. Next week is when shit turns 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. I'm only $275 away from my first batch of signs. dantrays@gmail.com. No more effing around. All right, Dan, go get them. And if anybody wants to help Dan get his signs there, dantrays@gmail.com. Send him a little donation. Let's see how far Dan can go with he has the proper support and backing. All right, there you go. Let's see. And yes, Dan, I saw you say something about coming back on the show around September 25th. Absolutely. But might want to, well, yeah, but maybe a little September 25th. Okay, maybe, but maybe a little earlier than that as well, because I think the voting day is October 26th. So, it would be nice to be able to get you on once or twice before the big day. see how things are going, see how things are improving, see what you're learning on the road there, and on the hustings, as they call them. All right, kids and cubs, let's get into it. Couple of things. Uncover the news. Trump has started posting. Musty, or go see put Grandpa back in the house. Put Grandpa back in the home. Oh, jeez, man. All right. Going to start with something that's not central to what we are talking about today, but still something important that happened. There is, I believe it is, an MP in the Toronto area who had a very scary thing happen. I'm going to go to the most latest version of the article because I see something that says 11 hours ago and something that says 20 hours ago. So I will go to the one that says 11 hours ago. Hopefully that will be enough. And hopefully it's the same author and it's just the updated version. But yeah, according to Matthew Frank, says, on a leafy Scarborough, Ontario street early Thursday morning, there was a muffled explosion as two cars burst into orange flames. A resident called 911 and raced outside to see the vehicles parked in the driveway of the East Toronto home of Liberal MP Salma Zahid burning. Toronto police said they are investigating the incident, which also damaged a third vehicle, as a suspected arson. Police have not said whether they believe the alleged attack was targeted. Speaking to reporters outside her home on Thursday afternoon, Ms. Zahid said the car fires have made her concerned for her family's safety. Quote, it's a lot for what my family and myself are going through because we have not been able to sleep, said Ms. Zahid, who was first elected in 2015 and represents the riding of Scarborough Centre Don Valley East. Melted glass littered the concrete beside the charred cars, one of which belongs to Ms. Zahid. There were no injuries resulting from the fires, Toronto Police spokesperson Stephanie Maselli said in an email. Ms. Zahid said she submitted videos to police from her home security camera and neighbors' security cameras that showed a person dumping gasoline on 4 or 5 cars and lighting 2 on fire. In response to Thursday's incident, Ms. Zahid said she closed her Toronto constituency office for the day as a safety measure. Quote, we will wait for the investigation results, but such attacks are unacceptable and will not deter me from my work serving Scarborough Centre Don Valley East, she wrote in a statement on social media. Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned the suspected arson. Quote, last night, MP Salma Zahid's car was set on fire outside of her home in Scarborough. This is a cowardly attack. Oh, sorry, something is gone wrong here with the article. Hold on. Sorry. Apologies for that, kids and cubs. Just bring that back here. All right, there we go. Last night, MP Salma Zahid's car was set on fire outside her home in Scarborough. This is a cowardly act of violence and intimidation. It is unacceptable. It is not who we are as Canadians. I'm relieved Salma and her family are safe. The Toronto police have my full support as they search for the criminal or criminals responsible and ensure they are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Ms. Zahid released a statement saying, overnight, there was an incident at my home where an individual set my car and another vehicle on fire. My son noticed the fire and we called 911, as did our neighbors. Toronto Fire Services responded promptly to the call and extinguished the fires. Both vehicles were destroyed. There was no damage to the home. My family and I are all safe. Toronto Police and Toronto Fire are investigating the incident as possible arson, and I would refer all questions regarding the investigation to Toronto Police 43 Division. I want to thank the first responders at Toronto Fire and Toronto Police for their efficient and professional response, and also the neighbors who reported the incident. We are grateful and relieved there was no further damage. I don't want to speculate on a possible motive. We will await the results of the investigation, but such attacks are unacceptable and will not deter me from my work serving Scarborough Centre, Don Valley East. That last paragraph is one that I am very happy is in there. I do not want to speculate on a possible motive. The Prime Minister out there saying that this is a cowardly act of violence and intimidation. We don't actually know that. Quite likely it is, right? But we don't know that for sure. However, acts like this, right, they're deemed crimes. They are never acceptable. But if you do commit an act like this, either or for not either or, but if you commit an act like this, either as an act of hate, let's say the family was targeted because they were Muslim, and or as an act of political intimidation, they knew that she was a liberal and wanted to intimidate her somehow. Maybe it was both, right? Maybe they didn't like her because she was Muslim and that she was liberal was a bonus, or they didn't like her because she was liberal and that she was Muslim was a bonus. People are weird these days, right? But if it's just this random act of random criminal act, it's bad enough. But if it is, in addition, a hate crime and or an act of political intimidation, then it's not only a crime against that family, it's a crime against the entirety of society. Because as I keep on saying on the show, when you launch attacks on elected officials, officials that we choose to represent us in our democracy and that we choose to represent all of us in the writing, you're attacking democracy itself. If you are doing things that create a climate that make people think twice about wanting to enter politics and serving their country because they fear harassment, intimidation, violence, that's crime against the entire country as a whole, against every single citizen, no exception. In my opinion, these should be some of the most severely punished crimes. It's a crime against democracy. If that's what this is. Ms. Saeed did the right thing there in that last paragraph, saying, I don't want to speculate about a motive. Because these days, that's the first thing we do, isn't it? We start speculating about motives. So, yeah. Man. I don't like that. I don't like that. Like I said, it could just be a random crime. That is true. But these days, with just the animosity and venom, one would think, well, the first place one goes to is they assume that it is either a hate crime or an intimidation crime. Hopefully, that is not the case. But it's still bad enough, and it's good that everybody is safe, that the home itself wasn't damaged, and that we know nobody's been injured. Seeing here, Kit Steve McLeod seems to be a new name for me. Morning to you. Welcome to the Beaver Lodge. Make yourself comfortable. Hope you stay a while. All right. Let's see what else we got here for you today. And just wanted to make sure that I got all my little tidbits covered before I go forward. Oh, yes. That's the other thing. Seafood. And because we talked about that yesterday, because it came up when we were on air, that it would appear that the liberals, or the government, I should say, in this case, have altered what they were going to tariff by removing seafood off the list. And we had a quick little article that seems to indicate that a potential reason for it here. According to Abby Hughes, it says that, and this is from CBC, those in Canada's seafood industry on the East Coast are breathing a sigh of relief after the federal government removed U.S. fish and seafood products from its list of counter-tariffed items. The government announced the change late Wednesday night, saying adjustments were made based on feedback. The change came a day after the federal government announced counter-tariffs on $27.6 billion worth of U.S. goods in an effort to hit back at new 50% tariffs the U.S. imposed over the weekend on a similar slate of goods when trade talks broke down. Many of the goods on the initial list were seafood products taxed at 25%. 25% rate. Industry leaders feared those countermeasures could have had devastating consequences for the seafood business, an industry which hadn't been caught up in the trade war until Tuesday's announcement. Quote, the whole Atlantic fisheries industry is relieved that this tariff has been taken away from the list, said Gilles Thériault, former president of the New Brunswick Crab Processors Association. The industry is heavily integrated across the border, says Nat Richard, executive director at Lobsters Processors Association, which represents 25 processors from across the Maritimes. Which, with such a short Canadian lobster fishing season, lots of American caught lobster is sent to Canadian processing plants in the off-season before it's shipped back south of the border to be sold. Richard says 25% tariffs would have made processing in Canada economically impossible. Quote, I think we would have likely seen an early closure of significant number of plants, Richard said, which usually employs hundreds of people. Outside of lobster, executive director of the Nova Scotia Seafood Alliance, Chris Vascato, told Radio-Canada earlier this week that nearly every single seafood item Canada imports across the industry was on a retaliatory tariff list, which would have had a broad impact. Joanne Lausier, executive director of the New Brunswick Crab Processors, says her biggest concern was the possibility that the tariffs would put a target on the Canadian seafood industry and lead to new tit-for-tat tariffs from the U.S. side. The spotlight was on us for 24 hours, and we didn't ask for this. We don't want this. We don't need this, Lausier said. Over 90% of Canada's snow crab is sold to the U.S., and it hasn't been tariffed on the American side so far. Lausier hopes it stays that way. In a statement to CBC News, Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston said he and representatives from the industry had raised concerns regarding the seafood tariffs with the federal government earlier in the week, adding he was pleased with yesterday's decision to drop them from the list. Despite the rollback on some measures, the federal government said it would maintain its dollar-for-dollar and rate-for-rate response to U.S. products. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Finance confirmed to CBC News that copper wire, charcoal, and a handful of other products like plaster sheets and tiles were added to the list in order to keep that dollar-for-dollar impact. Those items will be tariffed at 50% as of September 8th and are visible on the government's list of counter-tariffed items. Minister of Finance François-Philippe Champagne said Thursday's news conference that the federal government listened to Canadians in making the switch, but he didn't directly answer a question about what message the move might send to the White House. We made the update because I think that was the right thing to do in the interest of Canada, Champagne told reporters. Some of the things that I was reading yesterday and being exposed to would indicate that one of the reasons that they did remove this off the list is because the United States seems to be particularly upset that we have tariffed certain things that they have not. For example, the alcohol, which they are now tariffing. So by taking seafood off the list, even though it was a way to put some pressure, particularly in the state of Maine, given that the Democrats, according to public opinion polling, are already leading in the state of Maine anyway at the moment. Um, and given that it could indeed give the United States a new target. Oh, well, you're targeting our seafood. Well, then we'll target yours. Here's 50% on that. And we don't want to get into that thing that they made that switch. A lot of people on the conservative side are like Andrew Scheer and all of those things are painting this as an amateur hour. And oh my God, why do you leave this to the government? I personally think that I think it's good that we had a list, we had it out, and that nobody in the government said, that's the list, it is the list, it will never change, this is it. Again, the question is about our ability to be nimble and agile and to realize, uh, that we're making mistakes along the way or doing things that disadvantage us and to alter on course. I hope that this is not the first change, and I hope that it's not the only. Well, it is the first change. I'm hoping that this is not the last change on this list, right? As we go through and we find out, if we find out that something is particularly working and we've only tariffed it at 15%, let's go back to the list and tariff it at 25 or at 50. Right? Sometimes it might be the tariff rate on a certain item that needs to be adjusted because it's not working for us. Sometimes it's the, tariffing an item and then you realize, oh yeah, but that item is essential to this and this and this, which doesn't help us. So let's take that off the list and replace it with something else. Right? The fact that we already have things, we already seem to have a secondary list from which we can pull things in case something like this happens. Just again gives me the feeling that we have a contingency plan and a contingency for that contingency and a contingency for the contingency for that contingency. Mark Carney, ever the risk manager, seems to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And I don't know how far back he goes, but he did say, one of those press conferences last week that not to worry, he's got plans for this. Whatever it is, he's got plans. So So, we'll keep that in mind. But yes, some differences here with the seafood industry. Definitely seems to be well received in Canada, the move. And yeah, hopefully, uh, by doing that, um, uh, we're showing, how would I put it? Canada is trying to do a very, very specific thing. And Chrystia Freeland, if you've been watching some interviews with her over the past while, um, in these types of situations, in the first round when we did NAFTA 1, uh, Chrystia Freeland made it very clear that while we may retaliate, was we do not escalate. And in this case, maybe going after a new sector could have been seen as an escalation. So, right, we don't initiate the trade war, we don't escalate a trade war, but we will retaliate. Right? So we're trying to walk that fine line here with that. How do you retaliate without escalating? You punched me, I'm going to punch you exactly as hard as you punched me. Not more, not in a different spot, in the exact same spot, just as hard. Not more, exactly the same. Boof, right? It's one of those. That's what we tried to do because we don't want to be in this trade war. We didn't ask for it, but we're also not going to just lay back and let it happen, right? So the move here might have been in line with that overall global philosophy that we have to retaliate, yes, but to not escalate, and of course, never initiate. Um, so those are the kind of little stories that I had picked up yesterday, and maybe a couple. Oh, one also. Gentle correction on myself here. Um, Yesterday, I was talking about Premier David Eby suggesting various premiers suggesting things that we could apply export taxes to if we needed to later on. And in British Columbia, there are some coal exports. And yesterday, I said, assume that they were metallurgical coal. It is not. It is thermal coal specifically that David Eby is talking about when he's talking about those ones. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that clear here. Um, let's see here. Where do we go with this one? British Columbia conservatives. Uh, that stuff, again, as I mentioned yesterday, a hot maple syrup sticky mess. It is a disaster. People are already starting to comment on whether or not the leader, Kerry-Lynne Findlay, can actually remain. Now, again, uh, she wants this, seemingly. I mean, this is kind of stuff that she campaigned on. But maybe she didn't want it like this, because on August 25th, 3 days ago, um, she had some complaints about those who left the party at that point. BC Conservative leader Kerry-Lynne Findlay insists her caucus is united in the goal of beating the NDP, despite the latest blow that saw a second MLA leave in as many weeks. So this is after Ian Payton left. So we had Peter Millibar, right? The guy, again, I remind you, who during the election campaign for the leader was in the running, and she, according to the BC Conservatives, as you noticed, like we mentioned here, there's this BC Conservative person that is um, trying to have DRIPA, reversed. So the modern conservative movement, and you've been seeing Pierre Poilievre do that too every time he talks about property rights and stuff like that, have seen to have determined that Indigenous Canadians are clear enemies of Canada, and that they must be very unkind and say terrible things, and to try to turn the public against them. Um, this is here. Person, MLA, called Harman Bangu, minister, an MLA for Langley Abbotsford, applied to start an initiative petition to repeal the legislation, the DRIPA registration, which is the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. On Thursday, Elections BC approved his application in principle. An initiative petition is a non-binding process in which any registered voter in BC can propose a new law or changes to an existing law according to Elections BC. A petition proponent must collect signatures from 10% of registered voters in each of the province's 93 electoral districts within a 90-day period for the petition to succeed. DRIPA was passed unanimously in 2019 and requires the province to align its laws with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. The damn thing was passed unanimously just 7 years ago. And you have a dickhead that's trying to undo it. In December, oh boy, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Let's see if I can get pronouncing. A pronunciation guide here that can help that. The Githgala. All right, there you go. You have to learn. You have to learn. In December, the Githgala decision in BC's Court of Appeals found the province's mineral tenure system, which allows for automatic registration of mineral claims without requiring prior consultation of affected Indigenous peoples, was inconsistent with the United States Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Earlier this year, Premier David Eby announced his government would try to amend DRIPA to scale back the power the courts have in shaping reconciliation efforts, but after pushback decided he would not change the law in the spring legislative session. If an initiative petition succeeds, it moves, and this surprises me that the NDP was actually going to try to go down the populist route on this first. If an initiative petition succeeds, it moves to a committee in the legislature where elected officials review the proposal and either recommend the draft bill to the legislature or send it back to Elections BC for a province-wide initiative vote. Organizers and individuals are allowed to formally oppose the initiative. The petition period for Bangu's proposal is scheduled to begin on October 26th and run until January 25th. There have been 14 approved initiative petition applications since 1995, though only one, the Harmonized Sales Tax Initiative petition in 2010, received the required number of signatures. Bangu's office said he would issue a news release on the matter later today. So they're openly and proudly presenting themselves as the party that is going to defend, I guess, white people from these terrible and horrible Indigenous people who are coming to take their private property or whatever fever dream they've managed to get up for themselves with regard to this. Well, yeah. Not the best situation for this party. So Kerry-Lynne Findlay actively campaigned on purging former BC Liberals, who are actually Conservatives, from the party because they're not conservative enough, right? Specifically stating she is not interested in having a big tent party. She wants an ideologically pure conservative party. Of course, however, right, it's her definition of what is conservatism, which is not particularly, like I said, welcoming. part of that whole brand of conservatism that seems to be proud to be anti-Indigenous, anti-trans, anti almost everything, pretty much. So she wants this, but like I said, probably not wanting it in this way. Because she says here, Findlay warned that Ian Paton and Peter Miliband's plan to start a new political party could split votes. Yeah, that's the whole point. They don't want your party to exist anymore. They don't want you to exist anymore. They're creating an alternative so that they can bury you. That's the whole point. Quote, I don't think these decisions of both Ian and Peter are being made with the best interests of British Columbians in mind, Findlay told CBC News. They're quite selfish. Yes. They're the ones that are selfish. You're the one that's purging your party of everybody that doesn't look, sound, or talk or share the exact same views as yourself. Because you apparently believe that that's in the best interests of British Columbians, but that's not selfish. Taking control of a party and then putting your purse on every seat, telling everybody you can't sit here. That's not selfish. Payton said he was concerned that Findlay was purging MLAs and staff from key caucus leadership roles in order to appoint loyalists. Payton endorsed Miliband in his unsuccessful bid to lead the party. Both are former BC Liberal MLAs. Yes, because the number one criteria these days in politics to be able to govern is not competence or experience, it's loyalty, as we're learning in the United States. Look how well that does for you. Payton, the MLA for Delta South and formerly the party's agriculture critic, said Monday that the new party he will launch with Miliband will provide an alternative to anyone turned off by the direction the party is headed under Findlay. Miliband warned of more departures, saying there are other dissatisfied MLAs who may or may not choose to follow the same path. Findlay brushed that off and insisted that centrists and former BC Liberals have a home in her party. Quote, I've said from the very beginning, it doesn't matter if you voted NDP or Liberal or United or Socred back in the days for us. There's a place for you here, she said. Yeah, except if you happen to be a Chinese Canadian, because then when we have group chats about you, we label you CCP. But there's a room for you here. Findlay said vote splitting is a concern for parties across the political spectrum. A centrist could take as many seats from the NDP, even more perhaps than the Conservative Party, she said. I'm going to lead a united party to present as a government in waiting. No, you're not. You're probably not even going to get a chance to run in the next election. Payton and two other Conservative MLAs, Lynn Block and Rosalind Bird, said last month that they turned down a request by Findlay, who won the BC Conservative leadership race in May and does not hold a seat in the BC legislature, to resign their seat so Findlay could run in a by-election. You'll notice that it seems that she only asked former BC Liberals if they would give up their seats for her. Payton alleged Monday he was offered a job as a political advisor on agriculture in exchange for stepping down. Findlay disputed that. No, that's absolutely untrue. What our conversation was that he consider stepping aside. He is very keen to still be involved in agriculture, Findlay said. So what we said to him is that if you were to step aside, if you were no longer an MLA and no longer in caucus, we would be open to talking to you about playing some sort of advisory role in the agriculture space. But nothing was specified, and it was certainly clear that it was no type of enticement. Clearly, it wasn't, since he decided against it. No. Watch that, eh? It wasn't an enticement because he didn't take it. Law and order conservatives. Why are you charging him with robbing the bank? He didn't get his hands on any money. It's not a bribe if he doesn't take it. The fact that he didn't take it proves it wasn't a bribe. If it was a bribe, he surely would have taken it. Because he's that corrupt. Again, if you think about what these people are saying and you game it out, They don't expect you to think about what they're saying. It possibly couldn't have been a bribe, Your Honor, because he didn't take it. I didn't read the T-shirt. It was just a joke, man. Why is the media spending so much time talking about what's going wrong with us in the opposition? They should be holding the government accountable, not the opposition. No, they should be holding everybody accountable. There's no rule that says the media is supposed to keep the government more accountable than the opposition. The media keeps accountable every single parliamentarian. You don't get a free pass from scrutiny just because you happen to be the opposition. Media shouldn't be asking Pierre Poilievre why he's not attending Pride. They should be asking why Prime Minister Mark Carney, why he would want to attend such an event with all those degenerates. Scrutiny and accountability is only for the other guy, not for us. It's not a crime if it wasn't successful. It's not a bribe if they don't take the money. It's not extortion if I didn't get anything out of it. It's not coercion if it didn't work. It's not attempted murder if they lived. That's the path today's conservatives are going down. Allegedly law and order. Rianne Gasper announced Saturday she would step aside so that Findlay could run in a by-election in Abbotsford Mission. On Monday, Findlay announced that Gasper will be the caucus deputy chief of staff. You're not supposed to offer people enticements so that they will step down. Peter Millibar said he was offered an enticement. She says, no, 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 that was not an enticement. He clearly didn't take it. But Rianne Gasper did let go of her seat and suddenly found herself deputy chief of staff. So did she accept the bribe, Kerry-Lynne Findlay? Was it an enticement because she accepted it? Oh, no, no, no. That's not an enticement because we didn't tell her before she quit that we would be giving her this job. Okay, but like you did to Mr. Middlebar, allegedly, did you maybe mention casually in passing, kind of, that, well, gee, given that you are in this file, maybe we can find something for you to do, or you can stay involved in some way in a matter that corresponds with your interests? Wink. Well, you know, um, those denials might be a little difficult to maintain because it would appear that things have gotten so bad with the BC Conservatives that not only are there screen caps of text messages and or phone chats being shared, but it would appear that now there are people, well, now, then, because it happened then, there are people in meetings recording what's going on in the meetings. And now somebody is leaking some of those files. And this one here um, is a little interesting, kits and cups. No visuals. Well, I guess there is a visual per se, but this one is just audio. Let's see what it is that this leaked moment from a meeting reveals to us.
I can't get into the legislature unless I have a seat to run it. And in speaking to every one of you, there was only one person who said they would give up their seat, but it is not an entirely winnable seat. I think it would be the height of folly for the leader to run in a seat that they might not win. We can't afford for the NDP to win that particular by-election. And so right now I'm not sure, because I don't have, like there were some people I was told weren't running again, that it had even said publicly they weren't running again, and all of a sudden they came in to see me and said, I'm running, and I'm excited, and I want to win, and we're going to beat the NDP, and I'm thinking, oh, that's great, but okay. So I didn't have anyone else say they're willing. My thought was that if someone were to step aside, they would do it in the short term only, and they could run in the next election, and I would run in a different riding, because lots of ridings are going to open up, just like the one here today. But I want to get into the ledge.
Okay, let's stop right there. Did that scenario she just described remind you of anything? I just need a writing for now. You'll get it back when I'm done with it. In the following election, I will run somewhere else. But I need someone to give up something for now, like Miss Gasper eventually did. And Miss Gasper eventually ended up somewhere rather comfortable. She landed well. And all I'm saying is that this seems to be something that is well within the conservative playbook. You have to remember that Kerry-Lynne Findlay was a colleague of Pierre Poilievre back in the day. Right? Does that not remind you? Who does that remind you of again? This guy who had a seat, gave it up for the party leader, and then ended up in a pretty good job. And the leader's not going to run in that seat next time. He's already said so. Yeah. Pierre Poilievre and Damien Carrick. So yeah, I'm not able to find somebody who will give a seat for her. Her husband has one, by the way. She hasn't asked him, and he hasn't offered. Read into that what you will. But yeah, this little leak, not making Miss Findlay look too good. Let's continue.
I think it's important I'm in the legislature. I think it's important I take on the debate on the floor of the House along with you. So I'm just not sure at the moment. I thought I would have an answer within the week, actually, and then it didn't materialize. So we'll have to see. We'll have to have some more conversation. But my thought is, whoever did, if someone was willing to step aside, I could give them a role as a senior advisor in their same portfolio. So
I can give them a role as a senior advisor in their same portfolio. What was it that Mr. Millibar said about that? Uh, said something about he could be offered something related to agriculture, given that he was the party's agriculture critic, right? Findlay. Payton alleged on Monday he was offered a job as a political advisor on agriculture in exchange for stepping down. Findlay disputed that. No, that's absolutely untrue. What our conversation was would he consider stepping aside? He was still very keen to be involved in agriculture. So what we said to him is, if you were to step aside and you were no longer an MLA, no longer in caucus, we would be open to talking to you about playing some sort of advisory role in the agriculture space. In the meeting, she literally says, so we'll have to see. We'll have to have some more conversations. But my thoughts is, whoever did, if someone was willing to step aside, I can give them a role as a senior advisor in their same portfolio. Millibar's talking about her having offered him the chance to have an advisory role in the same portfolio, agriculture, of which he was a critic. No, I never did that. I never offered anything. Really? It's kind of because right now, based on this meeting, it's kind of looking like it's your MO. Girl. This is not good for her. This is really not good for her. Whoops. There we go.
Involved and around, but it would allow for a by-election in 6 months, which now we're in July means could be as late as January. I really would like to see this happen before the ledge goes back in February, so that, we don't even know if we'll go back in October. I know there's some talk that we won't, because he'd be so lost, doesn't know what to do, even if he doesn't step aside, that he might not want a fall session. We'll have to see. So obviously, for the Premier and the Lieutenant Governor, they have up to 6 months to call the by-election. They can do it earlier, but they have up to 6 months. So I really don't want to go past a by-election in January. But there's issues in the province. You're talking about the winter. You're talking about getting to places with lots of snow. You're talking about, the further north I would go, the more problematic it is, quite frankly, just getting it out at that time of year. That's not insurmountable. But, I'm open to suggestions if anyone here feels strongly one way or the other.
She had a lot of trouble finding someone who would give up a seat for her to run. They're musing about maybe the legislature not returning in October. Now, I don't know if she means October this year or October next year. But yes, I guess if David Eby wanted to pull the plug and go early, he could call an election sometime in October. There has been some rumors about it going on. A lot of people thinking that he wouldn't because there's some municipal elections coming on in British Columbia. I'd have to see when those election dates are to see if it would be really out of the question. October 17th, 2026. So yes, that would probably be out of the question then. But yeah, nothing stops him. But political convention would have one believe that it wouldn't happen, or wouldn't be like the day after those uh, the municipal elections, somebody calls for the next election right away. Usually there's a little bit of time there. Let's see. So yeah. Ooh, a little bit of breaking news here from Kit Uncover. Canada's economy grew by 3.3% in the second quarter, showing sharp recovery. That sound you hear is Pierre Poilievre's head exploding. That full-blown liberal recession comment didn't age well now, did it? Hopefully we'll be able to get back to that before the end of the show. But thank you for putting that out there. Kit Uncover, I've been waiting for those numbers. It's going to be a bad day in conservative land. They're going to be doing a lot today to change the channel. Wonder if Pierre Poilievre's going to have another press conference at 11 a.m. when he tries so hard to set the agenda for the day. This is what I wanted you to talk about today, and then everybody forgets it as soon as it happened, and then we start talking about what everybody else are talking about today. Oh man. All right. Let's see here. So all of this is going on. She thinks other people are being selfish. This tape has leaked, and well, yesterday, a 6th BC Conservative MLA left. Now, interesting thing is that person number 5th who left, Brendan Day, I think his name is. There's so many names, it's hard to keep them all together. It would seem that he like Marilyn Gladu, when she crossed over from the Conservatives to the Liberals federally, he was not on anybody's list. So that gentleman from Global News, the bureau chief for BC, I think it is, who stated that there could be up to 12 more. After Mr. Day left, Day was on nobody's lists. But here it says Bruce Badman announced Thursday that he's leaving the BC Conservative Caucus to sit as an independent, becoming the 6th caucus member to depart since Kerry-Lynne Findlay was elected party leader earlier this year. In a statement, the MLA for Abbotsford South said he has heard repeatedly from people who say our new leader is unelectable. Our new leader is unelectable. Wow. His full statement. Oh boy, that is written super small. Let's see if I can get that. Bruce Badman, MLA for Abbotsford South, issued the following statement today, quote, "When John Rustad and I started this movement in 2023, we did so on the premise of fiscal responsibility and bringing common sense back to BC politics. I am so proud, okay, that we came so close to forming government in the 2024 provincial election." So he is one of the people who revived the BC Conservative Party, right? So he's basically foundational to this party. Since the Conservative Party of BC leadership race ended this June, I, like many, had high hopes about the next chapter for our party. However, after numerous conversations with many of my constituents, it has become clear under the new leadership and direction of the Conservative Party of BC, an NDP win is becoming increasingly likely. For the sake of the future of this province, we must defeat this NDP government. Sadly, since the leadership race concluded, I am hearing from constituents and seeing with my own eyes the political tent needed to defeat the NDP getting smaller, not larger. The goal in politics is to make the tent bigger, to listen to the majority. It's not about left or right, it's about doing what's right. Now more than ever, we need to do right by the people of this province and listening to them. I'm hearing from British Columbians that their major concerns are affordability, how to keep a roof over their heads, find a doctor, and ensure that they and their family are safe in their community. To many, since the NDP formed government, the province has become unrecognizable, unaffordable. Many confide they have lost hope and have left for life elsewhere or are making other plans or making exit plans. Sorry. People of all walks of life tell me people of all walks of life tell me we need a group to pull together, defeat this NDP government, open up our vast resources again, and bring prosperity back to the province they and I so deeply love. Person after person has informed me they have decided that our new leader is unelectable. So, with a heavy heart, I am announcing today that I am joining an ever increasing number of MLAs to sit as an independent MLA in the BC legislature. I would encourage my fellow MLAs, regardless of political affiliation, to join me. Not only leaving, but encouraging people to follow him as well. Not great. Wilbur Turner, who is a good follow on the socials, if you have him, goes by the handle, at least on X, Queer Granddad. He's an honorary doctor of laws from UBC, 2S LGBTQ advocate, writer, founder, Advocacy Canada, and proud father and grandpa. And on this topic here, he writes, a leaked audio recording of a conversation involving BC Conservative leader Kerry-Lynne Findlay raises some serious questions. The audio was posted on X by the Findlay Files and contains over 3 minutes of Findlay discussing options for securing a seat in the legislature. She mentions a plan to offer MLAs a job in the party if they step down for her. The first question that jumps to mind is, who is the mole on her team? It has been obvious for a while that an insider has been relaying audio recordings, emails, and internal memos to people who are publishing them on social media. The big question is, who is it? Even with the departure of several MLAs, the leaks continue. This is a serious problem that is clearly undermining Findlay's leadership. We all remember what happened when former leader John Rustad suspected a leak in his caucus and had everyone's mobile phones searched, which was really weird. I find it interesting that neither Findlay nor anyone in her leadership team has publicly questioned how this information is getting to the media. The other question arising out of this latest leak is whether Findlay's recorded attempts to negotiate a position in exchange for an MLA stepping aside for her could result in a criminal investigation. Dun, dun, dun. I'm not saying there was criminal activity involved. However, I'm curious whether everyone will just brush this off as normal politics. The criminal code does have something to say about offering inducements to politicians to get them to resign. In Findlay's words, quote, but my thought is whoever did, if someone was willing to step aside, I could give them a role as a senior advisor in their same portfolio so that they're very much involved and around. Brushing it off as normal politics is indeed what Kerry-Lynne Findlay is doing. I'm not so sure that that is indeed the case. Now that Rianne Gasper, who stepped aside in the Abbotsford mission riding, was appointed to a leadership position on Findlay's team practically within hours of her resignation, it adds more weight to the question. All of this seems to be tied together by MLA Ian Payton's admission that he was offered a paid position in the party if he agreed to step aside for Findlay. The audio also gives insight into Findlay's frustration about her inability to get an MLA to step aside for her and her concerns about the timing of a by-election. Quote, I really would like to see this happen before the ledge goes back in February. She has also heard speculating that Premier David Eby may cancel the fall session. Quote, we don't even know if we'll go back in October. I know there's some talk that we won't because Eby is so lost. He doesn't know what to do. Even if he doesn't step aside, that he might not want a fall session. We'll have to see. Yeah, that's some very powerful. That's some nuclear grade coping and wish casting there, because David Eby doesn't seem so lost at all. Like, not at all. And if you have any doubt with regard to that, may I present a moment that we had for you some time ago, a couple of weeks ago, that showed David Eby in rather fine form, actually. Uh, you tell me, you look at this, and you tell me if this looks like to you someone who is lost and has no idea what to do.
The United States needs to decide what they want. Do they want a strong partner in Canada where we work together, or are they keen to go it alone? But there's not this middle road where you attack British Columbians on one hand, and the other hand you're digging up our metals and minerals and bringing them south of the border. We heard the news this week from the Americans about a direct attack again on forestry families in British Columbia, those that work with wood to make furniture, for example, to add value to our wood products. It's just inexplicable to me, because we had the American ambassador hold a mining roundtable, meeting with mining companies, looking at opportunities to invest in mines in Canada to secure the metals and minerals that the United States needs. It can't be that that is simultaneously the position of the US and that Canada agrees with that. We can't have a country on one hand attacking one group of families and workers while hoping to have access to the resources in Canada that the rest of the world wants. The United States needs to decide what they want to.
So, yeah. Not sure where Kerry-Lynne Findlay is getting her intelligence here. But yeah, none of this appears to make sense. The audio also gives insight into Findlay's, I mentioned that already. In a post to X, Findlay acknowledges the recording was made at a caucus meeting with the MLAs in Penticton early in July. She refutes it as a political smear job, of course, right? It is a weak attempt at a political smear job, nothing more. These were normal political discussions that respect the boundaries of the law and ethics. Says the person who I believe might be being investigated for things that she did in the 2025 federal election as well, where she lost her federal seat. On July 2nd and 3rd, the CPBC caucus held a confidential meeting, MLAs only, in Penticton to discuss caucus business. Virtually all BC Conservative MLAs were in attendance. Although unable to determine authenticity, it appears that an anonymous X account has posted a surreptitious blah, 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 blah. Let's go on. Continue with it. A surreptitious recording of a response to a question about our future plans. The poster has made the preposterous suggestion that some of these comments may constitute a criminal offense. Any fair-minded person listening to the recording will immediately realize that this is not a good faith allegation of wrongdoing. It's a weak attempt at a political smear job and nothing more. These were normal political discussions that respect the boundaries of the law and ethics. Yes, and that's why somebody felt that it would be really enticing if they leaked it, because everything about it was so normal. Just brush it away. There's some irony in Findlay referring to Eby as being lost when her own caucus and team were about to be faced with a seismic upheaval. A recent poll by New Yorkville Strategies Surveys puts the BC NDP leading at 46% to 40% among decided voters. Speaking of seismic, that is easily a majority, a potential landslide. This was prior to the exodus of 5 MLAs who are now sitting as independents. Boom. So yeah. If that Global News Bureau chief suggested that there could be up to 12 more, one down, 11 to go. I would not want to be Kerry-Lynne Findlay right now. Wow. That's something. All right. Moving forward, kits and cubs, we have a little bit of some deliciousness, I would say, for you. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention this. If we are looking for who the 6th, who the next one, who the seventh one might be. Somebody from CBC, Chris Walker, had a little bit of some insights here about such things. Let me just make this a little larger here. Chris Walker from CBC. Keep an eye on Gavin Dew, MLA for Kelowna, one of 3 remaining centrists in the BC Conservative Caucus. He's also Shadow Minister of Finance, a key critic role with a mission to reassure the BC business community. He's on vacation, but that can't last forever. Oh, man. Somebody pointed out Batman was on vacation. Being on vacation didn't stop him. Oh, man. Why is it that I get so happy when bad things happen to very terrible conservative leaders? I don't know. Wow. Oh boy. Let's see here. All right. Moving on. Danielle Smith yesterday took to a lectern and decided that she was going to address us and explain why it is that just like Scott Moe did the other day, why we can't use potash, why it is that we absolutely cannot tariff energy. Now, she did it in an interesting way, where she did say a certain number of things that were not elogious of Donald Trump, which struck me as kind of weird as I'm hearing her say these things. I'm thinking who are you, and what have you done with Danielle Smith? What's gotten into you today? But ultimately, the position still is, don't look to me for any help on that. So here is some of the stuff that Danielle had to say. Like I said, because I'm was stunned that she would go that hard in some of her statements, criticizing the Trump administration. But ultimately, she gets to essentially the same place as Scott Moe, where she says, yeah, we shouldn't do this, but it seems that she is going to do the counter tariffing on 50% on alcohol, like Scott Moe did. But it also seems that she seems to be encouraging slightly everybody to put the booze back on the shelves, a bit like Scott Moe did again, and apply 50% counter tariffs to remove the American thing that we're banning products that they have not banned. So, okay, fine, we're not going to ban your booze. We're just going to tariff it at 50%, and that might be the smarter way forward. Again, that's a difference of views and on strategies and whatnot. My personal view is that if you do it the way Danielle Smith and Scott Moe are suggesting it, you are removing shelf space from Canadian or products from other nations that we could be featuring instead, and it still means that some money is going to the United States to be able to buy them, to have them on our shelves in the first place. But she likes to go her own way, let's just say. But there are some statements in here, in what she had to say, that surprises me, because I have never heard her say anything negative or even that had a tinge of reproach when it comes to the Americans since all of this started. And here there is a little bit. So not sure what her game totally is here, but there is a little bit.
Between allies. What is happening between Canada and the United States right now is tragic, unjustified, and wholly unnecessary to what has been one of the largest and most successful trading relationships in world history. But this difficult moment has only created, or also created, an opportunity to take action and become a stronger nation. There are a number of paths that various politicians and pundits and policy experts have proposed to respond to the unprecedented tariffs being imposed on Canada today. And in a few minutes, I'll lay out how I believe Canada should move forward boldly and unafraid. But first, I want to address the calls I've seen from some, including the NDP official opposition leader, to threaten export taxes or curtailment of Alberta's energy resources as a bargaining chip in this dispute. Although I understand the need to respond strongly to these tariffs, I cannot think of a more disastrous policy decision than cutting off or taxing Alberta's oil to the United States. Doing so would absolutely devastate the Canadian economy. It would not only extinguish the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of Albertans, it would economically hobble our friends and neighbors in other provinces to the east. Let me explain why. And it's important that this be understood by every Canadian. If Canada were to put, let's say, a 50% export tariff on the 4 million barrels of oil that we export daily to the United States would immediately respond with a 50 to 100% export tariff on oil and natural gas that they export to Ontario, along with millions of barrels of diesel fuel and gasoline that Ontario and Quebec import from the Midwest. This would bring the economies of Ontario and Quebec to a grinding halt. Meanwhile, all those refineries in the United States that currently use Alberta's heavy oil would start looking to Venezuela for replacement heavy oil and reverse the pipelines northward to get it to Midwest refineries. As a result, we would lose the United States as a customer entirely and likely forever. This would result in the loss of about 500,000 jobs at a minimum, mostly in Alberta, but also hundreds of thousands of jobs in Ontario and Quebec. And if we cut off our oil entirely, what then? The same results, but even worse. The United States would, of course, respond and cut off all gasoline and diesel from their refineries to Ontario and Quebec, right as we turn into fall and winter. And unlike Canada, the United States has strategic oil reserves that Canada does not. So although their gasoline prices will increase, they will be able to keep them at relatively manageable prices, just as they have done through the Iran war. And without strategic oil reserves, Canada has no way to supply Ontario and Quebec with the oil, natural gas, and fuels that they would need in a timely fashion. The Toronto Stock Exchange would nosedive, along with millions of Canadians' investments, particularly our seniors, and small and medium and large energy companies across Canada would shutter and lay off their employees.
Okay, so clear, right? Fear, 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 fear. We can't do that. It'll be doom, 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 I tell you, doom. Now, these are legitimate concerns. Don't get me wrong, right? We are not set up for sovereignty when it comes to energy in this country. We are not. She has some good points. That's the government south of us that's petty enough to do that. But all of this is fear, 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 fear. Right? If we do this thing that I absolutely don't even want us to consider even doing, the worst things possible ever will happen. She may be right. She may be right. But it is fear, fear, fear. It changes eventually. But it's definitely fear. She's pressed that button super hard at the moment.
Able to find a market for their product. There is a better way forward. Make no mistake, the United States has betrayed a special trust between friends and allies. We were there for them during 9/11, Afghanistan, and fought alongside them as we led the charge at Juno Beach on D-Day. We have fought their fires and welcomed them with open arms. We have built one of the most successful integrated economies on earth and defended it through NORAD and NATO together. There is no excuse for their behavior right now. But I know this as well. The relationship between the American and Canadian people is far stronger and more resilient than any one president or administration. And the American people are not at all happy right now with the current U.S. tariff policies, especially against their closest friend and neighbor. We need to be wise, patient, careful, and deliberate to overcome the economic attacks our country is facing. So rather than making threats and promises we know we cannot keep, Canada should focus on what we can control and do. And we can do a lot. First, we must take care of the people and businesses that are being hurt by these tariffs for as long as it takes. And I'm pleased that the federal government has announced a package of relief measures yesterday that will do just that.
Okay. In that previous section, did you ever think you would see the day that Danielle Smith would say that the Americans have betrayed our special trust? There's a little bit of it that makes me believe that she's maybe just a tiny bit pissed that she stuck her neck so far out for them. And this is ultimately what we got for her doing so. I don't think, she knows that these people turn on everyone and will backstab anyone. That's part of her clique. But I think that she might be a little more surprised that the leopard did a little more than just lick her face to see how she tastes. Not saying that they bit her head off, but maybe they took a little nibble off the lobe of the ear, and she's feeling it. Just saying. All right.
Alberta will also work directly with small and medium-sized businesses and industry to understand the pressures they face and whether additional provincial measures are needed as well. I have implemented as well a cabinet committee co-chaired by my finance minister, Jason Nixon, and jobs, economy, trade and immigration minister, Joseph Scow. My ministers that have impacted industries in their files will also be a part of this committee, and we will be having our first inaugural meeting tomorrow. We will also be launching an online portal and concierge service so that businesses can share feedback with our government about the challenges that they're facing due to tariffs so that we can ensure that they are receiving the supports that they need. I'm also assembling a new business advisory committee, and we will be having our first meeting next week. And I'll be talking with Prime Minister Mark Carney about other ways that we can export more Alberta oil and natural gas to Eastern Canada. Time is our friend. We must give our people and our businesses the resources they need to survive and give the American people and their leaders the time they need to reverse these terrible policies after the November midterms. This means de-escalating and doubling down on diplomacy with members of the United States Congress and with governors in both parties to ensure that they understand how destructive these tariffs are for the American people and how we will be there to help as soon as the tariffs are reversed. Basically, it means being more Canadian. Too friendly, kind, and helpful to resist. We also need to get down to real work. Less talk and more action. To support businesses, investment, and employment, there are a number of tax reform measures that should be taken to unleash our job-creating industries. And this includes introducing an aggressive accelerated capital cost allowance regime and cutting capital gains taxes for reinvestment in Canada.
All right. So again, right, proposing her other ways. There's some stuff that we can do here in Canada, but with regard to the United States specifically, saying, we need to be just more Canadian, right? Basically, too friendly, kind, and helpful to resist. Let's just kill them with kindness and our Canadian politeness. And there's a portion of that that is true. Don't get me wrong. That's what Mark Carney has been doing so far, right? Showing up, being prepared at the table, never trying to get into fights with Donald Trump one-on-one in person, never puffing the chest in person, doing it at home from time to time, but never when the cameras are rolling. If he's got anything to say to Donald Trump that could be somewhat a reproach or whatnot, he tends to say it in private. Although lately he has been allowing himself to troll Donald Trump a couple of times, while not being afraid of calling a thing. Right, that Davos speech was a big moment, right, where he attracted some attention that maybe we're not enjoying. That speech he made to the nation just the other day is another one that too has started to go around the world, and people are picking it up and picking up on it. Um, so yes, right, that being Canadian, being friendly and courteous and helpful and kind and all that kind of stuff is something that we do need to do to win the war of public opinion in the United States itself, to have more American citizens be on our side than on Trump's, and on the global stage to finally convince all those other middle power nations, listen, this is the third time now we're sticking out our neck and we're saying, join us. Freaking join us this time. Right? We told you the first time this wasn't going to end well. It started not going well. We told you the second time it was not going to go well. It's gotten worse since. Now will you join the bandwagon? Right? But in order to do that, we do have to have that image, the undeniable image of being conciliatory and reasonable and kind and not emotional and, calm and poised and reasoned. Right? We have to be making the case to the entire world, no matter the full onslaught and PR offensive that the Americans are doing right now, trying to tell the world how we're the bad guy, primarily for domestic consumption, training Americans to hate us. Because on the world scene, nobody's buying this. They've all had their personal experiences with Trump. They know who he is and how he deals. Right? But there's this big thing. A couple of days ago, this wasn't being talked about on the U.S. at all. I was mentioning it. It's not getting every coverage. Now it seems to be the only thing they can talk about. Why aren't we at war at Canada? To war with Canada. But what's being done right now is on the world stage in 4K, 24/7 for everyone to see. The message that is coming out, it's not Canada that's not able to make a deal with Donald Trump, something nobody else has been able to do, make a serious, meaningful one. It's Donald Trump who's not able to come to a deal with Canada, something many, 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 many world leaders have indeed been able to do. The narrative that he's incompetent is spreading, and we are helping making that happen. So while there are some elements in what she's saying that are true, she does push them. Right? Her motive may not be the same, right? Her motive may be, hey, protect the oil industry no matter what. That's not antagonism. I'm going to wrap it up in all of this kind of stuff. But that's my main goal. I'm protecting the industry. I'm not necessarily protecting the country. Because that's the thing when she's talking, you never know if she's really talking about Canada or whether she's talking about the industry and who she's fighting for the hardest. All right, just got a couple of minutes left. Let's let her finish here.
We should focus on buying Canadian if at all possible, including government procurement, We must break down interprovincial trade barriers. As a start, I'm calling on all premiers to agree immediately to an equal markup nationwide on all Canadian alcohol products on our shelves. No more protectionism. Stop talking about it and just do it. And further, we must continue to strengthen international relationships with trading partners to open new markets for Canadian products. And no, we should never allow any country to tell us who we can and cannot trade with.
Okay, so it seems here that Danielle Smith, the last in line, is calling on all the provinces that currently have U.S. booze on their shelves to respond with 50% tariffs. I don't know who you're calling on, Danielle, because there's only you. Scott Moe had already announced it. And yours are the only two provinces that have U.S. alcohol on the shelves. I don't know who you are issuing this call to as a big moment of leadership, as your call applies only to you. And you didn't actually say in the speech that you are doing it. You just called on everybody else to do it. I'm assuming that you are doing that you're going to put 50% on the alcohol that you've chosen to have on the shelves. But you didn't actually say you would. You just called on everybody else to do it.
And of course, we should approve the pipeline to the West Coast immediately and start construction as soon as possible. The timelines need to be moved up. This project is integral in reaching more markets for our oil and to Canada's economic independence. My fellow Albertans and Canadians, Canada will not win this battle through brute force. We will win it through being smarter, more strategic, more agile, and using our reputation and relationship with the American people to have these tariffs reversed. That is how we win. And now I'd be happy to take your questions.
All right. That is how we win. Smarter, more strategic, all that kind of stuff. Don't antagonize them too much. Tariff the booze. She did mention whether or not she was going to throw in procurement with that, like Scott Moe did, and make it the case absolutely never touch oil, because that's the worst thing that could absolutely happen if you do that. Just like Scott Moe, to touchy posh. Why would I do that? Why would I risk jobs? Because everybody else is risking jobs, Scott. And you're part of the team, so you know there's a portion of the pain that comes to you too. That's why. And you offer them the supports. You don't just leave them dry, right? So she gets a couple of questions. There's one or two in there where she has some interesting answers. So I will bring them to you. I think, yeah, here. One, being asked right off the bat why it is that she is not stopping the referendum.
Thank you. We'll now go to our Q&A. We'll get to as many questions as we can. We'll start here in the room and then make our way to the phones. We'll go to our first at the mic. Just remember to state your name and outlet before your question.
Yeah, I'm Eagle Anderson with CBC Grand Prairie. For my question, the opposition and some other Federalist folks are calling for you to either postpone or cancel the referendum, considering remaining in Canada or holding a binding referendum on separation. They're saying that it creates a perception of a weak link in national unity that the Trump administration could potentially exploit during a trade war. What risk do you think there is to holding such a referendum at a delicate time for Canadian sovereignty?
Well, it's a separate process. We have citizen initiative law, which means that if our citizens ask through a petition, have enough of their fellow citizens put a question on the ballot, that we do that, because that's our legislation. 400,000 people asked for a vote to remain, 300,000 people asked for a vote to leave, and so the question on the ballot gives an option to remain or an option to start the legal process for a binding referendum. I think this is an important time for us to be looking at the benefits that come from being a part of Canada. That's what I've been advocating. It's why I'm voting to remain. We still have some issues, of course, in resolving with our federal government on a range of fronts, but I can say that I feel like we have a real momentum in our country now working together, and I hope to persuade as many people as possible to vote with me.
Any follow-up?
Okay. Clearly, in other words, She is not going to be helpful. She is not going to do the same thing that the Parti Québécois did and choose not to have this type of referendum, at least while Donald Trump is still president of the United States. And you will notice here, unfortunately, she did not answer the question, right? What risk do you think there is to holding such a referendum at a delicate time for Canadian sovereignty? Well, it's a separate process. She goes into the technical, she goes into the process, she goes into her standard lines about there being 400,000 people from the Forever Canadian side who wanted a referendum to stay in Canada. They did not. They explicitly wanted to avoid any referendum being held at all. She keeps up with her lie. She will never deviate from that lie in her talking point. That's her big, big, big lie. She will never contradict that, but she didn't answer the question. I'm doing it and it's happening, so shut up and stop asking me about it. And if you looked at how her face was contorted when she was being asked the question, she did not like that question. Just saying. And then she is asked two questions, the question and a follow-up about the semblance of not necessarily pulling one's weight in all of this battle. So let's see here the question. Come on, there we go. And answer and see what we have here with regard to that.
And did you
my follow-up, I'm just wondering, since we are seeing that action from Saskatchewan, is there any concern on your part that Alberta may be seen as, not potentially doing as much as it could to engage in this trade skirmish with the United States as opposed to other provinces?
Well, I actually prefer Scott Moe's approach to some of the other provinces. And so that's why I want to take a closer look at it, because what I'm seeing Scott Moe do is he, in good faith, put the alcohol back on the shelves, and now he's facing a 50% tariff. And so he's matching what the Americans are doing to his province. It's been pointed out that there are no products from Canada that are banned from going into the United States. And so maybe this is an opportunity for all provinces to look at, if we're going to match equal for equal, maybe Scott Moe has found the way to do that. That's something I'll want to be discussing with my caucus or with my cabinet colleagues tomorrow.
Okay, so in there, asked how she feels that she would not be viewed as not pulling her own weight. Doesn't answer the question. Again, right? Doesn't answer how she feels about that, how she could, if she doesn't matter, she doesn't care about that being the reputation or the vibe around her. But again, stating here, making the case, stating, and now you could look at it as one of two ways. One, she's looking at what Scott Moe did and is considering doing what he did. And we'll wait for that. I don't know why she needs to hand it to a panel to study it and all that kind of stuff. But normally she does that when she wants to, when there's a question that comes up that the people want immediate answers, says, well, we need to send that to a committee and study it, like she did to the Forever Canadian petition, where she had originally sent it to die before she had to repurpose those 400,000 signatures as being in demand of a referendum, which it wasn't, if you look at the paperwork. But and then she had to go back to that one to find a way to revive the referendum the courts had at that point killed. Then it became useful for her, so she chose to address it, but she had to essentially send it to that committee to die. So what you're seeing here is she needs to talk about this to more people to see if she'll do the same thing that Scott Moe does. But then you notice that little flip thing that she does? But maybe he's got the right solution. Canada, maybe all of us should be putting American booze back on the shelves and just tariffing it instead. Again, wrapping it in the thing, though, however, the United States hasn't banned any of our products. We haven't. Again, maybe she has a point. But I prefer, seriously, our purchasers not even purchasing it and having it on the shelves. Because some people will buy it by not having it on the shelves. Some people won't buy it. We can't. So yeah, that's my personal preference. But again, if us banning something that they haven't banned is the thing that gives them the pretext to slap stuff on us, then fine, unban it and just tariff the F out of it. Right? And then do the things like put them on the bottom shelves and make them hard to find. Or just order so few of it that it doesn't really, so little of it that it doesn't matter. Or something of the sort. But yeah. Final question answer from her that I'm going to bring to you today from this event.
Thank you, Connor. We have time for one, maybe two more questions. Operator, could you put through our next caller, please?
Your next question comes from Gates Goreen of Global News Edmonton. Your line is already open.
Thanks, Premier, for taking my questions. We're seeing, most of, if not all, the premiers get behind the federal government's choice to have counter tariffs, but we're also seeing very prominent conservative voices also get behind that. Why does your government feel differently on this as a retaliatory measure?
Well, I oppose tariffs on all fronts. I wish the Americans would drop theirs, and I wish we didn't have to put ours in place. I think the Prime Minister has done a good job of matching equal for equal. Tariffing the same products that are being tariffed here, with the idea that we need to, if our industries selling into the United States are going to be hurt, then let's find a way to protect them so that they can develop new product lines and new markets. So I just philosophically am opposed to tariffs because I don't think we should be happy about putting anyone out of business or causing any consumer to face higher prices. I don't think that anyone should be relishing a trade war. We find ourselves in this situation, and I'll be doing my part to make sure that we're identifying the businesses that are impacted and working with the federal government to identify the supports to ensure that we can minimize the harm. But, just make no mistake, there's going to be businesses that go under. When we were talking about it, there's a potential for 28,000 small and medium businesses to be rendered completely unviable as a result of this ban. That's 45,000 workers, and that's the reason I don't love tariffs. And anything that we do as a counter tariff, it's going to have a similar effect on a different community for different reasons. But this is not. I don't think anyone wins a tariff war. I think the way we win a tariff war is we get back to the table as quickly as possible to get to an agreement so that we can reduce and minimize the tariffs that there are, and try to establish the principles of the Canada-US-Mexico agreement so that the vast majority of our goods are able to cross tariff-free. That's what I hope the outcome would be.
So there you go. Explaining that her, objection to tariffs is more philosophical than anything else, but having some praise for the Prime Minister for having judiciously selected the tariffs and realizing here that there is going to be some damage. There's a little bit of a framing there. We shouldn't be gleeful or happy to be putting people out of business. We're not happy to be doing that. Because we didn't choose this. We didn't ask for this. Now, that we are inflicting damage after they chose to strike us might be making us feel good. That there might be a cathartic element to punching back. Yeah, no doubt. But we're not for the fact that we received the punch in the teeth first. The concept of us doing this would have never even occurred to us. Right? So yeah, you have to being charitable, this is the most I could say that I understand where Danielle Smith is coming from, and I am seeing some rationality in some of the positions that she takes that seem rather inexplicable as a result. Um, but because there's always this constant anti-Canada, anti-Ottawa tinge to everything that she does otherwise, um, it's just hard to trust her. It's just hard to trust her, particularly given how loose she is with words and that she's one of those talk fast politicians. Um, so yeah. Now, uh, we had a couple of statements yesterday. Hopefully, I have them. Hand, or there's clips of them available. Um, but yes, so we had Danielle Smith come up and say why she can't help. But yesterday we also had some statements out there in the public sphere from U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Nutlick, whichever one you pick, whichever you want. Um, where he was very excitable, flapping arms a lot, creating the impression that you know, um, well, just creating the impression that a lot of stuff that he was saying came from a place of panic. It seems to be word on the tweet is that the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, doesn't particularly like Butlick at all, and has been trying to sabotage him left, right, and center every time he has. And it looks like there's a possibility, saying there's a possibility, because remember when Jamieson Greer gave that interview to Rosie Barton and said, there's absolutely no way. Sorry, that should not have happened there. There's absolutely no way at all that things could have gone down that way because Mark Carney and Donald Trump didn't talk since Tuesday night. So there's no way Donald Trump could have changed his mind between Tuesday night and when everything went to pot on Wednesday. But we know that that's not true. We know that that's not true. And everybody is pretty much saying, it was Butlick who came into the room and pretty much destroyed everything. There's no doubt Nutlick has the ear of Donald Trump. Don't come and tell me that you believe in a galaxy, a dimension, a world, a reality in which Howard Nutlick was not in the Oval Office or on the phone or texting Donald Trump in the last 24 hours, putting a whole bunch of stuff in his ear. Right? Don't even put it past these bunch of people that even if that didn't happen, that there isn't enough infighting among them. That Nutlick may have done this without the authority of the President of the United States. I don't know why he would, because that would be a very, very bad thing, dumb move on his, but maybe. And then Trump finds out about it, and now he's really worried. But this is a Nutlick from yesterday. And again, trying to create the impression that we're the bad guys here. And just look at there's a lot of flapping of the arms and excitability here. Okay. No, the math was not sensational. The math was not sensational. The math was sensational for you, Americans. Did that show, Kids and Cubs, the Howard Lutnick intervention? Um, Sorry, something weird happened on my screen, so I don't know. I think it did show, but let me know, Kids and Cubs. Uh, Video not playing. Okay, something did happen. All right. Thank you, Kids and Cubs, for letting me know. I just noticed right now that something really weird had happened on the screen. So let's bring that back to you again, and take two. There we go.
It's manufactured. So there's the Sovereignty Party trying to run, and they're in the lead in Quebec. And so this was Mark Carney manufacturing something that would try to keep them from winning. And then you have Alberta has an independence resolution. These are elections in October. So he's making this a political thing for Canada. And my guess will be, as soon as his elections are over, you're going to see a plane full of Canadian negotiators flying down and go, come on, we'll give it to you before your election. We're just being used by them, right? That's what happened. That's why it ended. It didn't happen for math. The math was sensational. It was a great deal that we shook hands on.
Okay. So, as I said, the math was not sensational. Flavio Volpe said that the auto manufacturing thing, the specific thing he came in to screw up and scuttle, was not going to allow our auto producers to turn a profit. The math was not sensational. It was for the Americans, but not for us. It wasn't a great deal that we shook hands on. There was no deal. We had the intentions, we had the moments, but when it came down to writing down on paper how it would be implemented, which Jamieson Greer admitted to in the interview the day before, but claiming that that was no difference. Yeah, it is a difference. If you can't agree on the implementation, you don't have a deal. If you make changes to how you interpret, how you're going to implement things, that changes the deal. So Jamieson Greer is there pretending like nothing happens. Now you have this guy. The Americans apparently usually know nothing about us, but he apparently knows when there's a Quebec election, when there's a sovereignty vote in America, in Alberta. Sorry, Freudian slip. Americans usually don't know that much about us to care, especially to go on to the news and make the cases like that. The problem is with Howard Butlick is Canadians are just doing this because they got elections in October. Canada, like this. Yeah, you guys have an election coming in November. You're not doing all of this because you got an election in November, and once that November thing comes up, you'll wait after November. There are going to be plane loads of Americans coming to Canada, or Americans begging trainloads of Canadian negotiators to come down to America and give us everything. This guy's literally sitting there thinking that the country that is standing up to them, that has been standing up to them all this time, that got Donald Trump's rage, that got Donald Trump's ire, now that there's an election on the 5th in Quebec and on the 19th in a referendum in the 19th in Alberta. Now, all the stuff we've been doing since Donald Trump came along, now all of that is about those elections. And suddenly, as soon as the 19th of October is over, we're just going to be rushing in to give the United States everything it wants before their midterms to help Donald Trump, who did all of it. Butlick, get off the crack. I'm just saying, God. This guy's a little too high on his own supply. Then yesterday, we had Jamieson Greer show up on some of the U.S. networks yesterday. And unfortunately, I don't think I have a clip of that one here. I will take a look to see if we have it. But on America, oh yeah, there it is right here. on American networks. Well, take a listen if you notice a little different, a little something different about Jamieson Greer when she is speaking. When she is speaking. Ooh, that was a Freudian slip. When he is speaking Rosie Barton to when he's speaking to Laura Ingraham. Because there might be a little bit of a difference.
Came from like a Chinese.
Hold on.
Now. Well,
Hold on. Let's try that again. One more time.
Now. Well, one of the interesting takes on all of this came from like a Chinese state media source, essentially saying that Canada launched a Chinese-style counterattack against the United States.
Notice him nodding as soon as she says Chinese style, like this nodding. Yes, yes, they did.
It's almost like, I mean, conspiracy theory sounds like a conspiracy theory, but almost sounds like they were consulting with China on how to deal with Trump, when perhaps they think Trump is perhaps slightly more vulnerable politically than he was a year ago.
Well, Laura, if you just look back at the past year and a half of the Trump presidency, the president has taken strong action against the world. We haven't really singled countries out. We have a global action to protect American jobs, American industry. I have two countries that have retaliated over that time: the People's Republic of China and Canada. And by the way, in a lot of ways, we've settled out with China on key issues. So it's really just Canada. So they are mimicking the kind of things that Canada would do at the same time that they're welcoming Chinese electric vehicles and potential investment in Chinese auto production in Canada.
Now, you mean they're mimicking China, what China would do?
That's exactly right, yes.
Canada is China. Didn't have the balls to say that to our faces, though, did he? Mr. Greer, little advice from Marilyn Monroe. If you insist on wearing two faces, at least make sure that one of them's pretty. We see you. We hear you. We know what you're doing and saying about us when you think we're not looking. Laura Ingraham, it kind of sounds like conspiracy theory, but Canada consulting with China on how to do any of this? They're using the same playbook? Come on. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. We are we're being Ukrained. We're being Ukrained by this administration. Kit Tabby G, only on Fox can they get away with this kind of crap yet? Indeed, they do. All right, before we go, kits and cubs, because we got that wonderful news about our economic growth coming in at 3.3%. Something you will never hear Pierre Poilievre talk about, I am sure, and certainly not give any praise to the Canadian government as a result. So let's take two looks at this. One from the Financial Post, from Paula Tran. Here, Canada's economy grew by 3.3% on an annualized basis. Wow. That is fantastic. 3.3% on an annualized basis. I think the last number we had gotten when we got that monthly number was saying that we were, was it at 2.5 we were running at annualized? Or is it 3.5? I can't remember off the top of my head. I need to go check that out. But if it was 2.5, then this is one hell of a beat. If it's 3.5, we're right in target. Canada's economy grew by 3.3% on an annualized basis in the second quarter of 2026, marking the fastest quarterly expansion since 2023. Economists were expecting the strong showing after a string of data released shown signs the economy was rebounding from a slow start to the year. Statistics Canada also released revised data for the first quarter of 2026, showing that the economy actually grew by 0.3%. Previously, the agency reported annualized real gross domestic product had contracted by 0.1% in that quarter, which had marked 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, meeting the technical definition of recession, which means that, like we said on this show, when Pierre Poilievre rushed to the microphone as soon as it happened to blame Canada and say that we were weak, we said, wait a minute, because those numbers are so borderline, and it could very well be that they could still be revised upwards. Well, turns out they were revised upwards by 0.4%. From minus 0.1 to plus 0.3, which means we did not have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, which means there was never even a recession, not even a little tiny little bit. Again, the Conservatives want you to believe that they're the government in waiting, and they could not even get that one right. They can't even tell you when there's an actual recession. This is not a party that deserves to even be the opposition. Early signs suggest momentum from the second quarter rebound had slowed. Statistics Canada flash estimates for July indicate real GDP was unchanged for the first time in 4 months, following a 0.3% month-to-month growth in June. More to come from the Financial Post. According to the CBC, if in case they have a little more information here, says Canada's economy rebounded sharply in the second quarter thanks to a jump in exports and stronger domestic investment. According to Statistics Canada, the economy grew at an annualized rate of 3.3% in the second quarter. For the month of June, GDP was up 0.3%. Export rose 3.6% according to the data agency, largely because of higher auto exports. Interesting. A little bit of a graphic here. Going to put it up for you. This is what is indicated here. Let's see if I can make it a little larger for you here. Is that bigger? There we go. That's good. Quarterly GDP in Canada. This is annualized change. So we did have that. So first of all, Conservatives were trying to make us believe that second quarter of 2025, third quarter of 2025, this quarter here, last quarter 2025, and first of 2026, that all of these had been negative, pretty much, or most of them, right? So this one, yes, -1, compensated by a plus 1.9, a -1 again, compensated by +3. So even the 2 negatives that we had, right? Both of them here compensated, and then more so by the total. And then boom, here, 3.3, which is the most we've had since the third quarter of 2024 and the second quarter of 2024, when we were going at 3%. And then that was Justin Trudeau at the time who had brought us to that point. All right. The article goes on to say, residential investment also helped to boost the economy, as did investment by business owners who spent more on machinery and equipment in the second quarter. Business capital investment was up 2.3% in the second quarter, snapping a streak of 5 consecutive quarters of decline. Investments in computers and peripherals jumped 16.7% in the second quarter, which StatCan said was related to the kinds of processing units used in data centers. And corporate incomes rose in the second quarter, largely thanks to the energy sector boosted by higher gas prices. The high cost of gas also acted as a drag on earnings for manufacturing firms, which saw their input costs rise. On the consumer side, household spending rose 0.8% as consumers invested more and spent more on cars and rent. For the month of June, growth was solid across a number of industries. Some tourism and hospitality sectors got a lift from Canada hosting 10 games in the FIFA World Cup in June, the agency said, while manufacturing expanded for a third straight month. Good stuff. Earlier this year, Statistics Canada data indicated the Canadian economy shrank marginally in the first quarter, raising debate about whether the country was in a technical recession. But in today's release, the data agency revised the first quarter results, showing that GDP in the first quarter was actually slightly positive at 0.3% annualized. With the revision in the strong second quarter growth, BMO economist Doug Porter says, quote, the so-called technical recession has been sent to the trash bin. But looking forward, things could get a lot rougher, he said. Initial estimates for July indicate growth was flat and trade war tensions with the U.S. paint a and let's try that again. Initial estimates for July indicate growth was flat and trade war tensions with the U.S. paint a challenging picture of what's to come. Quote, the third quarter is thus off to a tougher start and won't get easier in August and September with the wave of downbeat headlines, Porter wrote in a notebook to economists. The release comes just before the Bank of Canada's next interest rate decision next week on September 2nd, where Porter predicts the central bank will hold the rate at 2.25%, waiting to see how the tariff spat plays out in the economy before making any changes, if any, are needed. So there you go, kids and cubs. Some very, very good news for the nation. And with that, that is the end of our episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring. Word of mouth is priceless. Tell your peeps and poops all about us. And one of the ways you can do that, kids and cubs, is by scanning this QR code, which will bring you to our YouTube page if you're not there already. There you can click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching live, remember, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to smash before you leave, and you won't forget to have smashed, so you will have a very satisfying day. Like, share, and subscribe, smash with our buttons, click the notification bell, and select all. That way you will get a warning whenever we have some fresh new content for you to check out. Thank you so much for all that you do. And of course, share the content. I'm happy to report that things have been getting better. We've had a couple of episodes, 3 or 4 of them, or 5 in the last little while, that have crossed the 1,000 mark, which is a high watermark for us. Usually, we look when our shows get about 800, we're very happy on the live one. So we're having a growth, and it seems that we are clear past whatever throttling was happening in April, and doing better than ever. Our subscriptions are up as well. In terms of, we crossed 33,000, and I think that we may have solved the issue. But so thank you for those of you who are tuning into our episodes in greater numbers than ever before. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, and more thank you. It's all gratitude here. If you're trying to reach us on our socials, kits and cubs, at True Eager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and on the Shitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, and of course Instagram. We have Substack. It's called Beaver Bites. We have the unofficial Dan Fam Discord, of course, so lots of ways that you can contact us. And of course, right here in the comment section on the YouTube page, if you leave us something there, that's the way that we're most likely to see what it is that you have to say to us. And we do read everything, even though we're not able to respond to everyone. Now, another way that you can help Kits and Cubs is if you would like to support the show financially. If you think that what we do has value, it resonates with you, and you would like to support us to help cover the cost that we incur to bring this to you, we would be very grateful. And you can do that by making a donation to the Emergency Beaver Lodge Hydration Fund, where you can fill our cup with hot chocolate for me or coffee for Mr. Grizzly. And if there's a little extra, we use it to cover our internet fees and subscription fees and everything else that we have to pay to bring this show to you at least 5 times a week, most of the time. When I don't need a day vacation or something of the kind. So there you go, Kits and Cubs. Please do Emergency Hydration Fund at coffee. We get, that's coffee, ko-fi.com, Eager Beaver, all in one word, and we get about 95 to 97% of your donation. As well, Kits and Cubs, you can donate via YouTube, memberships, stickers, and of course, super chats. We get about 70% of your donation there. And if you want to avoid giving money to any USCE tech bros, then you use our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and make a direct transfer. We get your donation, 100% of it. No service fees go to anybody in the United States. It's a win-win-win. If you do not have the ability to send us a financial contribution, Kits and Cubs, do not worry, because our same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is where you can make another type of contribution. For example, compliments or constructive criticism, guest suggestions for the interview project, questions about politics or the show that you would like us to answer, or you would just like to share some good news. Because we love your good news. So please use that email address to do that. And of course, hashtags Kits Who Cook, Kits Who Craft, Kits Who Cultivate. Let us know what you're up to. Send us some inspiration Thank you very much. And of course, if on YouTube, if you're not watching live fewer than 7 days after the broadcast, please swipe left on the comment section and offer us some hype points to help us gain more visibility on YouTube. Thank you so very much. Because democracy is something that you do, we have Monday when we come back, we will have by-elections that day in Beaches, Beaches, East York, I think it is. I don't actually remember the name of the riding. I think it's Beaches East York, Chicoutimi-Lefiard, and North Vancouver Capilano. You cannot vote by anticipation anymore, even going to the returning office. That closed on the 25th or the 26th, I believe it is. So voting day is the 31st. If you're voting by mail, you probably need to get your ballot in today for it to be in on time. In Ontario, we have 3 provincial by-elections, of course. We have Scarborough Southwest, East Hamilton, Stony Creek, and York Simcoe. Their voting date is September 3rd. So do make sure that you are allowed, that you have everything that you need to vote there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that early voting is on now for those votes in Ontario. So please make sure, yes, indeed, you can vote in advance. Today is the last day till 8 p.m. at your electoral district if you're doing that. That's Elections Ontario. Let's see here. And vote by mail. I'm just going to take a little check on that. If you're voting by mail, your deadline to apply is 6 p.m. today as well to get your working kit. And those need to be in by 6 p.m. on September 3rd. All right. Of course, we have party leadership races for the Progressive Conservatives in New Brunswick, the Liberals in Ontario, the Liberals in Nova Scotia, and the Greens federally. Vote in those as well. And of course, we have our House of Our Commons petition, ourcommons.ca, E7531, asking for Canada to declare, among other things, Ambassador Doucheface Pete Hoekstra as being persona non grata. And that petition now currently sits at 260,539 signatures. So please, again, circulate it. Let's see if we can make it the most signed ourcommons.ca petition in Canadian history. That would be fantastic. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I have for you today. Some words of wisdom. I'm getting ready to go on a family camping weekend. If you do have good relationships with your family, and if you don't, if you have good relationships with your chosen family, which I hope you do, have a little bit of family time if you can manage it over the course of the weekend. I think it was Breen's, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but somebody is only a few hours away in the Dan fam and being able to give their children a nice, big hug. So and big kiss. So enjoy that. Please enjoy that. Enjoy your family time. All right, that's all I got for you today, kids and cubs. Please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And at the count of 3, can I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let me have it. Oh, yeah, that's the good stuff right there. And since you asked so nicely, here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, and before we go, just a little bit of news about some Canadians who make us proud, going back to people who have received the Order of Canada. And we have Brenda Camino from Toronto, who's a distinguished actor whose career spans 50 years and more than 100 stage, television, and screen productions, a champion of equitable representation who advocates non-traditional casting. She expanded opportunities for marginalized artists and transformed diversity in Canada's performing arts. A beloved mentor, she's the co-producer of the Renaissance Canadian Theatre Company. Clarence LeBreton from Caraquet, New Brunswick, is an Acadian historian and public servant. Clarence LeBreton, let's try that again. Clarence LeBreton from Caraquet, New Brunswick, is an Acadian historian and public servant who has advanced cultural preservation and regional development in New Brunswick through his leadership at the Village Historique Acadien. I've been there. It's a wonderful place. Aquarium of New Brunswick, and within various departments. Engaged author and community builder, he has strengthened French language media, organized major commemorations, and served on several boards for years in service to the public. We have Martha L.P. McLeod from Prince George, British Columbia, who is a visionary leader in rural nursing and remote health care. She has championed equitable access for northern communities while mentoring future nurses and nurse practitioners. Through groundbreaking research and influential publications, she has transformed education and strengthened primary and community care. Her enduring contributions continue to shape the future of rural health in Canada. We have Ryan Bresser-Moran from Victoria, British Columbia, who is a Red River Métis citizen who has amplified Indigenous voices through his leadership in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. As Canada's first Associate University Librarian, Reconciliation at the University of Victoria, he is strengthening ethical stewardship and access to Indigenous historical records. And finally, Daniel Patrick Murphy from Stanhope Beach, Prince Edward Island, is a leading entrepreneur there. Danny Murphy built DP Murphy Group into a major hospitality enterprise while advising regional tourism and employment. Let's try that again. A leading Prince Edward Island entrepreneur, Danny Murphy built DP Murphy Group into a major hospitality enterprise while I made the same mistake twice. One more time. A leading Prince Edward Island entrepreneur, Danny Murphy, built DP Murphy Group into a major hospitality enterprise while advancing regional tourism and employment. A dedicated philanthropist, he strengthened disability services, revitalized Oak Acres Children's Camp, and supported healthcare and Alzheimer's initiatives, profoundly enhancing community well-being across the Maritime provinces. Thank you, wonderful Canadians, for all that you have done to make this country better and to have left it a little better than you found it. That's all I got for you today. Amour et bisous. And we will see you Monday, not only for our regular show, but later in the evening for our special live returns show from the federal by-elections. So we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.